one of the things I've really liked since about the FT since joining is how much collaboration across different disciplines, different subject matters, and different places there is. Let me give you some examples. I think the FT did a really good job, and I think our rivals would probably acknowledge that we kind of owned the Russia, Saudi, OPEC crash story for a couple of months, and that was the US correspondents, that was the London-based OPEC correspondents, that was the correspondents in Moscow, all of us working at the same time, tapping sources, trying to stay on top of the story and collaborating in that way. And it came off. It worked well. We kind of led the news agenda on that. There's just tons of expertise that's able to be tapped across the FT, from Hong Kong to London to New York to soon to be in Houston, down into South America. Energy is really well covered. It has some of the best reporters at newspapers like the Journal or Bloomberg or Reuters. It's our competitors are really, really good, let's face it. But I think we have strengths that they don't have. First of all, we have a huge breadth. We have expertise and we have breadth. The breadth comes from people like me and Anjali and David and others who've covered OPEC and the big moving parts of the global energy industry for a long time and who are known for doing so. And so when we come to the US, we're not just focused, as some of our rivals in the US are, on just the kind of the parochial local story. We try and put it into context, and that's because we have to. When I'm writing a story for the FT about what's happening in Texas, I want it to be comprehensible, not just to somebody in Midland or Houston, but somebody who reads English as a second language and lives in Paris or Turkey. And I also think that the real strength of the FT is that is just the calling card. I mean, I've never, even working for The Economist, I've never had the same kind of calling card that I have now that I'm at the FT, where when you call up, people are willing to speak to you. They trust you, executives, politicians, they trust you not to get the story wrong, to be fair. They don't expect us to give them free publicity, but they expect us to be fair because we are. I think that's a real strength that we have. When we call and we ask to speak to somebody, generally speaking, nobody resists. They want to speak to us. And I think so that opens doors, gives us better stories, gives us better access to the people that matter, allows us to tell stories from the inside when necessary, and do so in a neutral and authoritative way. Energy is so seminal to the global economy, but people who operate in the energy sector, even some of the best executives and some of the most experienced executives, sometimes they get kind of tunnel vision about what they're doing. They focus so much on honing their drilling practices or the speed at which they can install solar panels or whatever, that they forget about the broader changes that are underway in the economy. And I think one of the strengths of the FT is that because we report on everything, we have the equivalent of Energy Source in other sectors, and we have experts across the piece. I think one of the strengths of the FT is that those executives, when they read the FT, can get some insights from other industries. And the energy industry right now in itself is one undergoing such huge flux that can only help.